Okay, welcome everyone to the 2020 Senior Project Presentations, Quarantine Edition. Put your hands together. All right, so I'm just going to start with a couple of very brief, very technical announcements. So, for those of you who are watching from Zoom, thank you. It is being recorded here live with really nice equipment. I want to give a big thank you to Ryan and Anna Kim for helping that happen. At home, you will be able to see and hear better if you turn your video off. And also please mute yourself. And at the end of the presentation, after the thank yous, we'll open up to questions, and that's when you can write something in the little chat. And you can see the little chat feature at the bottom of your window there. You chat, and we'll read the question. Okay? Great. So, without further ado, it is my just deep pleasure, and I'm so excited to introduce Gia Desta Hailu.
Ever since I was a kid, I was told that I was going to be a doctor. This is something that most parents do in Ethiopia. They want their firstborn to be an engineer and the second one a doctor. I didn't question it because I always thought medicine was very interesting, and helping people was my passion. As years went by, my desire for medicine grew. Growing up in a developing country of Ethiopia, you see and hear about the unending problems of inadequate healthcare and education. The well-built private hospitals are too expensive to afford and are equipped with doctors and staff members who are there just to count the money at the end of the month. They have no compassion or sympathy for the people that walk in and out of the doors every day. The affordable public hospitals are overpacked. They fill rooms built for 1 or 2 patients with 5 or 6, and some in the hallways on uncomfortable benches and even on the floor waiting for rooms to be cleared out. During this chaos, not everyone gets the time and attention they need, and the wait can be as short as 1 or 2 days, or even as long as several months. It is heartbreaking to see that not everyone gets access to health care, and it leaves so many people to suffer awaiting their last breath miserably. These situations have always made life seem incredibly unfair. People with authority know about this situation, but they fail to do anything about it, and choose to simply believe that life is unfair. I'm not very fond of this idea. Matters like this shouldn't be neglected just because life is unfair. So I made a promise in my youth. I made a promise that I'll do something to change the situation or make it better. Like most senior projects, my project also started out big. I had a lot of ideas what I wanted my exploration to look like. Initially, I wanted to get an EMT license, shadow some doctors, and possibly volunteer at a local hospital. Unfortunately, when I went to register for an EMT class, I was told that I had to be 18. So I had to scratch that idea. Instead, I decided to shadow and interview many doctors, do a pre-med professional day at Gunderson, and travel to complete my project. For the first few months of the school year, I was very busy with college applications, so I neglected my project. But after I was done with that, I called for a care group just to refresh and just like to get a new feeling of my project and the goals of my project, and I dove into action immediately. The first thing I wanted to do was to know what it was like to be a doctor. I wanted to hear from a few people from our community about their experience and their job. So I was able to get a hold of Vance Baker, who works at the Children and Family Center in Viroqua, and Dr. Katie Fassbinder, who also works in the Children and Family Center, but in La Crosse. They're both amazing psychiatrists, and my interview with them left me with a great excitement for my future and the fruit of my project. Over the course of my project, I had the opportunity to talk to many talented people. I talked to cardiologists, general surgeons, microbiologists, gynecologists, anesthetists, the list goes on. I did a full day lab at Gunderson where we did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, CPR, and a laparoscopic simulation, which was very hard, but also very cool. To help me with, just to get a sense of what most of the doctors were talking about, I took an online medical terminology class, which really helped me a lot. And a great part of my project was my trip to Ethiopia. Youth Initiative High School believes in serving its community. We do a lot of service work throughout the year, and seniors also have to include a service project in their senior project, which is very essential. After attending so many senior project presentations, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted my service component to look like before I even knew what I was going to do for my senior project, which was to give back to my home country. When I left 3 years ago to come here to Wisconsin, that was one of my goals, was to give back to my country. I didn't really know what it looked like back then, but I just felt like this was a good time to start. So I was just thinking of some possibilities and brainstorming ideas, and I came across Gunderson Global Partners. Global Partners is a program established by Gunderson, and it helps improve the health and well-being of global communities by inspiring volunteerism throughout the Gunderson system. It currently has 4 locations: Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota, and Ethiopia. They send 2 teams every year to provide support and just create a sustainable relationship. And after gaining a better understanding of what Global Partners really does, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I contacted Kristen Lentner, who was the coordinator of the program, and I expressed my interest. Unfortunately, my excitement was short-lived because they weren't sure if they could take a minor legally with them halfway across the globe. This was very frustrating to me, but after working with the legal department for 2 months, I was finally confirmed that I could join the Ethiopia 2020 team. So I bought my ticket on January 1st. To help cover at least half of the $2,000 that I needed for this trip, I organized an Ethiopian fundraising dinner. To get a professional advice, I met with Sonia Newenhouse. She helped me with planning everything and just like setting goals for the dinner. And after a lot of planning and stress and chaos, my event turned out beautifully. The dinner was sold out. I was able to make $1,000, and I would like to use this opportunity to thank everyone who was part of the dinner and came and supported my project, and everyone who helped with the dinner. I was able to see that I was surrounded by a loving and a very supportive community, and I really appreciate that. So 2 weeks after the dinner, we departed from La Crosse to go to East Africa. After a rush to O'Hare and 13 hours of being at 40,000 feet, we were finally able to touch down on the motherland. I was very content. My heart was full. I was back home, but this time it was to do something great. When we left Chicago, it was about 15 degrees cold, but Ethiopia welcomed us with a beautiful weather, and our final destination was going to be Dilla. Dilla is a small market town that is in the southern regions of Ethiopia. It's about 7 hours away from the capital, Addis, and it's well known for its coffee. There was so much to learn about this place, and trust me, our team was very ready to just fully immerse itself into this rich culture and tradition. A little travel story. So we took a van to Dilla, and the van ride was a blur. We were all very tired, and I was in a deep slumber until I was awoken by a very loud honking noise. It took a moment to realize what was happening around me, but it seemed like our van was swerving and was speeding through a wedding crowd. And then what it seemed like a robbery scene, and then a herd of cows. Everything was fast-paced. Our luggage was flying around in the van, and there was nothing we could do. I just sat there, silently prayed that we got to Dilla safe, and I had to take more Dramamine. Let's just say the driver was reckless, in American standard. So our adventurous week started. The first surgery I noticed was, I shadowed, was a metacarpal phalangeal dislocation, which is a broken thumb. When I realized that the patient was just a little girl, I was immediately hit by a wave of nostalgia. I thought of Gia, 6-year-old Gia, going into surgery with a broken arm. The last memory I have of that time was when I felt the anesthesia kick in and I was screaming as I was losing touch with reality. After I snapped out of my thoughts, I immediately felt sick and I almost passed out. My vision was blurry and I couldn't breathe. As embarrassing as it was, I had to step outside and I was very disappointed in myself. I didn't know how I was going to make it through the week if I didn't know how to handle a minor surgery. But surprisingly, in the end, I did completely fine. By the end of the day, I was excited to see and learn more, and it was just amazing. So by the end of the week, we were able to shadow about 10 surgeries. Just be advised that the next few slides are going to be a little bloody. We started out with the birth of 4 beautiful babies, and we saw from anything between the fixation of a broken thumb to birth, which was a very powerful process. We also saw removal of various body parts, starting with few gallbladders, a uterus, a hernia, a prostate, and a thyroid gland. Our days were very adventurous and they were filled with so many experiences, and usually we would convene during dinner time just to talk about how our days went, roses and thorns of our day, and then we would throw in funny incidents just to make our time enjoyable. And sitting at a table with 4 medical professionals and hearing about their job and experiences made me appreciate medicine more than I thought I would. We also talked about the American health system and kind of compared it to Ethiopia's and what we were seeing there. And we were just getting a lot of cultural experience as well, and that was really awesome. As a student, to be honest, that was the best learning experience I've ever had because it felt incredibly rewarding to be in an environment where my presence was acknowledged. I got to talk to so many talented and caring people who were willing to give me time out of their day to make sure that I didn't feel lost, to make sure that I was understanding everything that was going on. The surgeons were willing to tell me their procedures and all that, and that was really amazing. I also did something out of what I planned, which was to serve the team as an interpreter. Communication was really hard at times because not a lot of people speak English in Dilla. In fact, not a lot of people speak Amharic, which is the official working language of Ethiopia and Dilla. So, being the only Ethiopian on the team, I was excited to assume that role. So, I quickly became in charge of communicating with drivers, guides, waiters, and also the people at the hospital. By the end of the week, although we were very sad to say goodbye to Dilla and its beautiful people, we were definitely ready to take what was given to us and move forward for future mission trips and partnership trips as well. I would like to talk about one of the monumental things that happened during our stay there, which was when we were delivering the package that we brought from the United States. So prior to our trip, the hospital requested for a few anesthetics and a few instruments for the laboratory. So one day, we sat down with Hailu, who was the head of the anesthesia department, and we kind of went through the package of anesthetics. When he realized that we brought Presidex, which was just a commonly used anesthetics drug, he was so excited. His joy flew through the roof. He could not stop laughing. He did not believe that he was holding a bottle of Presidex. And it is really hard to describe how excited he was. And I've never seen someone so excited like that. The mission trip was definitely an eye-opener in a lot of ways. I was able to walk away with a greater passion for medicine, but it also gave me one purpose for my life, which is to live for moments like when Hailu received those bottles of Presidex. Presidex is very cheap, well, relatively cheap and commonly used drug here in the United States. But on the contrary, it's very hard to find in Ethiopia. But it's heavily needed because it helps patients have a better post-surgery recovery time. And so it made sense why Hailu was so excited. And in that moment, I realized that the true act of kindness always comes from the heart. the people at Dilla have very limited resource to technology, and they still manage to save thousands of lives every year. Coming from America, the first thing you might notice is the fact that this hospital is a complex of tin roof sheds, or the fact that the floors are very dirty, the smelly and sometimes very dim, packed hallways, or even the flies in the OR room. And then you will ask if it's safe, if it's sanitary, and you will forget the fact that these people try so hard to save people's life and help people. And I really admire that. I'm really proud of the people at Dilla. I'm really proud of my people. And just thinking about this trip in general and my project makes me so excited for my future. This project has given me more than I thought it would, and the trip has helped me see this world through a clearer lens. In just a week, I was able to appreciate my life, this world, and those around me more than I did before. And this is why I think exploring is so essential, because it helps you see what's out there, it helps you to think out of the box, and it also fuels your life with more purpose. And I really appreciate having had that opportunity. Thank you. Now, I'm going to do my thank yous. First and foremost, I would like to thank my father, who was so far away, yet so supportive. I love you, Dad. Okay. Next, I would like to thank my care group, Bean, the best advisor, and being someone that I can always count on, Michelle Drucker, for being the best American mom, Susan Townsley, for being my senior project and adult mentor. You were definitely more than a mentor to me. You took care of me with so much love, and you're definitely one of the moms Veroka has given me, and I love you. Elliot, the best peer mentor, a brother. I loved having your support and advice and sometimes criticism. Dr. Vance and Katie Fassbinder for your time. Gunderson Global Partners for giving me an opportunity to see what was out there. Dilla and its beautiful people for welcoming us with all hugs and smiles. Our lovely faculty who always do so much for us. My senior class and my friends, Veroka and its community, for giving me a second home. Last but not least, this phenomenal school who has helped me to grow and be someone. Thank you, everyone.
You gotta stay up there.
I gotta stay up there.
You gotta stay up there. There's questions coming in. Questions are just gonna come rolling in. The chat function. All right. So let's just chat it up. Can someone want to chat? Wow, there's a lot of people here. That's only half of the people here. Oh man, yeah. So you just go to the chat function and ask a question. Just pose it to everyone. We'll wait a second. People just think it's amazing, Gia. Okay, great. So here's some. Can you read that? What are your plans?
What are your plans next? What field of medicine? I missed that. I plan on going to college next fall, and I am hoping to be a cardiologist. How many people were on the trip? Who were they again? Including me, it was 5 of us, and they are people who work at Gunderson in different fields. We had an anesthetist, we had someone working in the labs, a microbiologist, we had Kristen Lettner, who was the coordinator with us, and we also had another person who worked in the lab. Thank you, David and Diane. they just said, what a great job. And so I said, thank you.
Any more?
No, not really. Okay, James said, in what ways has this project changed your perspective on the medical field and healthcare in America? Well, I have seen that there's definitely a shortage of medical professionals back home, and I didn't really know that until I was sitting through most of the meetings that we had prior to our trip, and we were talking about the numbers of doctors here and in Ethiopia, and I really didn't know that, and so I didn't have that perspective on there. And then healthcare in America, this project was mostly about Ethiopia, and just like the healthcare in Ethiopia, so I didn't really think much about the American healthcare system. Sean, I can't see.
Okay. Sorry.
Did you get it?
I think so. Can you say it again? Say it again, Gia. You couldn't really hear people.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah, so this project was mainly about knowing the healthcare system of Ethiopia, and so I didn't really think about the American, like nothing changed for me about the American health system, but for Ethiopia's health system, I wasn't really aware of the shortage of doctors and just in general medical professionals back home, and I was able to see that. Like they have one person, for example, Hailu, who is the head of the anesthesia department, working as a teacher, as the department manager, and also being a supervisor, and also like attending surgeries. So they have one person working for a lot of things there.
Make sure you repeat the question.
Yeah, the question was, in what ways has this project changed your perspective on the medical field and healthcare in America?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Just say it before you answer it.
Okay. What is the representation of women in doctor population in Ethiopia? Oh, I actually have an incident about that. So as we were shadowing different kinds of surgeries every day for about a week, I noticed that they did not have female nurses, scrub nurses, in the operating rooms. And when the patients were women, it made them so uncomfortable to be in a room with 11 guys, and that was really frustrating. So not a lot, especially not as a surgeon. I didn't see a female surgeon. Do you hope to return to Ethiopia to practice when you finish your training? For sure. That is the ultimate goal. Did you get to see your family when you were there? Yes, I got to see my family for a week.
Okay, let's say.
All right, last question.
Last question.
Last question.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.